I don't know about you, but sometimes as I'm evaluating my life, I wonder, am I doing anything that will last in eternity? I want to do something that matters, don't you? I mean, really, I want to do something that is more than just something that affects the here and the now. I want to do something that will last into eternity. We're in this series called The Life of Significance. And my hope and my prayer for all of us is that we can get to a point where all of us know that we are living a life on purpose, and that life matters and it's significant, and we're doing something that will go on into eternity. We got something special planned for you today that I know this in the first service. We got somebody's just going to speak truth into our lives that will really challenge every one of us. But before we get to that, I get my hair cut probably once a month. Lori Malone, she cuts my hair. She's good. She's real good, as you can tell. But every once in a while, and what I preach about Lori is I could come in and, we have kids about the same age, and, she's a part of our church. One of the things I love about our church is you can go everywhere, and we got people scattered all over the community, and I can even go get my hair cut, and it's somebody from our church who, again, we got kids the same age, and I usually know what the conversation is typically going to be about. But every once in a while when I'm out traveling or I'm out of town and I look in the mirror and my hair is a mess and I just think, man, I need to get this taken care of. I always know this. And I know for some of you it's the evil empire, but one of the things I love about Walmart is you can go anywhere in the country and you can walk in and somebody is ready to cut your hair. I like that. And I walk in, and this is typically the way it is. There's, like 12 gals standing around. And I'll walk in, I'll say, hey, do you have an opening? And they look at me like I've just messed up their day. And they say, well, let me check my calendar. And I'm like looking around like I'm the only one here. They say, well, we can get you in. And so I'm pretty excited at that point, and I sit down, and they put the thing around your neck, and then they put all that gear on, take off your glasses, and they always ask me, how do you want your hair cut? And, I always say I want, a 2 on the side and the back, and then just trim it up top. They do it. Well, I've told you this story. It's always an adventure when I go in and get my hair cut at one of these places, and I don't know the people. Because almost always what happens is they begin giving me way too much information about their life. And this happened about a month ago. Again, I go in, and I was on a trip. I had some meetings, and last minute I go in and get a haircut, and I walk in, and this gal sits me down, and she goes through the routine asking me what I want, and then I make the mistake of saying, how are you doing? Messes up conversations all the time with me. How are you doing? Well, my blankety-blank boyfriend came in last night, and starts spilling her guts about that. And then she was so upset about it that she started drinking, and she said she had too much to drink last night. And she said, now here I am, I got a headache, and I can't think straight. And I'm just thinking, all right, let's just stop now, Here's your $20, appreciate it. But she'll just go on and on and on, and this just happened this last month. Again, it happens every time, and they just start spilling their guts and telling everything that, again, because I know the dreaded question is going to come up. It always comes up. Now, it doesn't affect you like it affects me, because you guys can say, well, I'm a plumber, or I cut trees, or I fix things, and that doesn't faze them a bit. In fact, they probably, in about 45 seconds, they might not even remember what you do after that. They always remember what I do. And the question comes up, and I know it's just going to throw a wrench in the whole conversation. They say, well, what do you do? Do you really want to know right now? And I just learned to answer it this way. I put a big smile on my face, and I say, I'm a preacher of the good news of Jesus Christ. And this last month, this girl grabs me by the head. She puts like a death grip on it, tilts it sideways, and says, why didn't you tell me that right away? It's like, I know. That's how we communicate with each other, though. I mean, it's a question we want to know about each other, isn't it? I mean, we ask each other that. When we build a relationship with somebody or get to know somebody, one of the first things that we ask about somebody is, what do you do? And it's important to us, isn't it? I mean, our jobs and our careers, and many times even when we are asked, what do we do, sometimes we're able to puff up our chest and we're saying, well, and it makes us feel good inside about what we do. And for some of us, it's kind of like we're almost a little bit embarrassed about what we do. It's harder for us to answer that question. What if we changed that question when we interacted with each other or when we're getting our hair cut with a complete stranger? I mean, what if we just threw a wrench into the whole thing? And instead of asking somebody, what do you do? What if we just tried to mess up the whole conversation from the very beginning and said, hey, I got to ask you, why in the world do you exist? I mean, try that next time you're getting your hair cut. Just see what comes out. I mean, try that the next time you're interacting with somebody for the first time and you're talking to them. Why in the world do you exist? I mean, why do you get up on a Monday morning? We're living in a day and age where we're so consumed with the what we do. And I want to submit to you that many of us are totally missing out on why in the world we even exist. Why we're even here on this earth. And I want to tell you, it's more than your job. Did you know that? It's more than your house. It's more than your car. It's more than your career. It's more than the activities that you're involved in. But God has a special plan for you. And I want to have somebody very special share that with you a little bit today. But before we do, I want to read a passage of Scripture to you. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, it says this. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are, anybody know? Because you are young. Man, not too many years ago, I used to take that verse and I'd be like, I love that verse. Now my wife comes up to me and she grabs gray hairs out of my beard and she just yanks them. This verse means different to me now. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. And I want to tell you all right now that we got a group of young people in our church that are living that passage of Scripture out in front of us right now. They are setting an example to all of us, many of us who are consumed with the whats, the careers, the jobs, the money. We got a group of young people that are consumed with the why. Why in the world they were put here on earth. Just some good news for all of you before I invite her up. I was told this last week that throughout last week, now this is going to excite you, okay? If this doesn't excite you, I want to tell you, there is something wrong with you. This will excite you. This last week in our church, we were able to minister to, from age kindergarten all the way through senior in high school, 240 children and teenagers. I mean, 240 children and teenagers from kindergarten to senior were in some form of discipleship, either here at the church or in people's homes, but all over the community. We had men and women, adults, who were investing their lives into children and teenagers, and 240 of them were participating in that this last week, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's bigger than many churches on our district. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And so I want to invite one of those up here today. And I know this. I got to be honest with you, Lexi. I was a little bit nervous this morning. I'm pretty particular about who steps up here. I am. But I knew Lexi has this incredible story, and she's doing some amazing things, and she's setting an example for all of us. And I knew that was not an issue. I wasn't sure if she's going to be able to get up and communicate it all right. And she came this morning and just knocked it out of the park. And she again set an example for all of us what it means to live a life of significance. So I know this. She's probably a little bit nervous, and so I want to calm those nerves. And so as Lexi Crawford comes up, I want you all to welcome her with a round of applause. Lexi, come on up.
Hi, guys. Most of you know me. I'm Lexi Crawford. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a senior at Salem High School. A lot of you know my story, but for those who don't, I'm going to give you a little snippet. I grew up in an unstable household, and my stepdad was addicted to several drugs, and he was very abusive towards my mom. And he was in and out of jail through all of my life, and some stuff happened, and my mom was laid off from her job, and we ended up being homeless for quite some time. And that led to me moving in with my dad my freshman year, and I've gone to Salem High School since freshman year. And growing up, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I didn't know how to talk to people, and so that was difficult. I didn't really have anybody that I could talk to when I was feeling down or anything like that. And when I say that I didn't like to talk to people, I mean I was scared. And Mom would be like, "Do you want pizza?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And she'd be like, "Okay, call an order." No, I'm not calling. I don't want pizza that bad. So I did not want to talk to anybody. And it wasn't until the middle of my sophomore year when Morgan Ice asked me to stay the night with her for the first time. And we woke up in the morning, and everybody was like putting makeup on and stuff. And I was like, "So what are we doing?" And they were like, "We're going to church." And I was like, "What? You didn't tell me that." And so I didn't really like church, and I had always questioned God, and I didn't know if he even existed. And if he did, I didn't want a part of him. And so going to church was really difficult because I was not comfortable with it. But that day, I decided that I wanted to change, and I didn't want to be so sad and miserable and alone all the time anymore. So I started hanging out with the Ices more. And not last year, but the year before at day camp, I was a group leader, and they sent out thank you cards to everyone who participated, who volunteered. And Pastor Mike's thank you card said something about God has truly given you a servant's heart. And I didn't understand that. And so I was really confused on that, but I didn't really look into it. I was like, yeah, servant's heart, cool. So I just kind of went on like living. I was going through the motions, basically. I just went to church with Morgan on Sundays, and then I would read my Bible and say a prayer every night, and every prayer was basically the same. And it wasn't until over the summer when one of my friends, Adam Alba, was diagnosed with cancer that I realized that I wasn't really doing much with my life. And I have this prayer book, and I would just write his name in the prayer book over and over, waiting for God to do something, when all along I could have been doing something. So I decided to sell t-shirts for him, and we sold around 170, and we raised around $600 for him. And it wasn't long after the t-shirts came in, we heard that Adam was cancer-free. And so that was awesome. And but after that, I decided that I didn't want to just stop there. I didn't want to just sell some t-shirts and raise some money and then quit. That wasn't good enough. So one of my friends, Tim Johnson, his mom was diagnosed with leukemia a while ago. And so this Saturday at Rural King, there will be a bake sale from 7:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning. And if anybody would like to donate anything, money or just cupcakes or anything, you can talk to me after the service. I have a verse. It's Luke chapter 14, verses 13 through 14. When you spread a feast, invite poor people, crippled, lame, blind, and you will be happy because they have nothing with which to repay you. And I like that verse a lot because it tells you that it's not about getting anything back from the people you help. It's about just giving, and that's it. And I heard this saying on a video, and it's Jesus didn't come to be served. He came to serve. And that's why we are here too. We aren't here to just go through the motions and get all this stuff and who's got the bigger house, who's got the better cars. It's not about that at all. And when a lot of people are asked the question, what's it about, the journey or the destination? As Christians, we most likely will say the destination. We want to get to heaven, and we want to spend eternity with Jesus, and that's all it's about. But it's not about that. It's about the journey. It's about the people we help and the lives we touch, and It's about how we take on the role of being the hands and feet of Jesus. And that sounds like a big deal, like the hands and feet of Jesus. And so I heard that once, and I'm not very informed on the Bible or anything like that. I mean, I read my Bible, but it's not like I know a lot about it. So I didn't understand that, so I just Googled it. And basically, we are supposed to be like Jesus by being nice to people we wouldn't normally be nice to. Back to that verse I just read, it shows that Jesus didn't discriminate. It wasn't about what background a person came from or what color their hair was or what music they listened to. He didn't care. He invited them to this feast because they were his people. I have another verse to read, and it's Acts chapter 20, verse 35. In all things I have shown you that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And that just goes back to the other verse where it's more important to give to people than to get something back. Basically, I decided to do all this because I felt that I was just going through the motions. And I think that we hear that a lot, going through the motions. And what that means is we go to church on Sundays and we pray a prayer every night, and then we read our Bibles, a certain verse every night or whatever, but that's not going to get you to heaven. We were put on this earth to help other people get to heaven too. We're supposed to bring people to God. Two of the biggest role models in my life are Trent and Cheryl Ice, and not just because they let kids come over to their house all the time, but because they live lives to bring other people to Jesus. It doesn't matter. They know like what people do in the past, and they don't care. They accept everyone, and I really appreciate that about them, and I want to be like that. I have one more verse. It's James chapter 2, verses 14 through 17. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or a sister is poorly clothed and lacking on daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also, faith by itself, if it does not have its works, is dead. And I think that that's a really important verse, and when I found that, it really spoke to me. And basically, it just means that saying that we are Christians is not enough. Me standing up here and telling you that I love Jesus isn't enough to get me to heaven. I have to prove to people and to God that I deserve to go to heaven. And when you get to heaven, you're going to have to give an account for your life. And you can't just say, I went to church every Sunday and I read my Bible every night. That's not good enough. We have to bring people to God. And so I'm going to end with a couple of questions. What's it about for you, the journey or the destination? Are you truly living a life of significance, or are you just going through the motions? Thank you.
Good job, Lexi. Thank you. That's good stuff, isn't it? Lexi's going to sit in a barber's chair. Not a barber's chair. You don't go to a barber, do you, Lexi? And I told her in the first service, I want you to sit down, and when they ask you what you to do, I want you to smile and say, I'm a preacher of the good news of Jesus Christ. Because she brought it this morning, didn't she? I mean, just awesome stuff. And what I love about Lexi and many like her is she wants to live a life that way. She wants to live her life in such a way that it impacts other people, where it makes a difference and it lasts in eternity. And my challenge for all of us is, what are we doing? One of my biggest fears is that you'll hear something like that and you'll walk outside of these doors and say, wow, well, that was neat. I'm glad we got teenagers like that. But what if all of us walked outside of these doors and said, you know what, I got to do something. I got to open up my eyes and I got to look around me, and I can't be so consumed with my issues and my problems, but I need to open up my eyes and look around me and see the needs around me and do something about it. Reality is one of the things that I want for our church. When people look at our church, I don't want to be known as a church with just great music, phenomenal preaching. I want to be known as a church that goes outside its walls, dives into people's messes, and makes a difference, and lives the life that Jesus has called us to live. And so my challenge for you this week is let's go out and live a life of significance. I mean, let's just do it. Let's just not sit in church and be inspired by a teenager who's doing it, who's setting us an example. Let's go out and do something. And so my prayer for all of you this week, and listen, I'm going to pray hard on this. I believe God answers prayer. Brace yourself. I'm going to pray this week that God is just going to open up your eyes this week to see needs all around you. To the point, if you don't do something, you can't hardly sleep. I can't wait to hear the reports next week. But I believe this. Our community's counting on it. Our community is a great community. We got good people in this community. But we got people who are hurting. We got people who are struggling. We got people who are in a mess. We got people who are depressed. We got people who are down. We got people who are just trying to scrape by. All along, a church is gathering every Sunday having a good time. I don't want to just do that. I want to get outside and do something. And so this week, let's go out and do it. I'd like everybody to bow their heads and close their eyes. And I'm going to pray for you. And as we send you today, let's go out and let's plan on it this week to do something. Let's discover a life of significance. Jesus, we love you. I thank you for people like Lexi. I don't want to embarrass her too bad this morning, but I'm glad that she's able to get up in front and just share her story. I know this. There's lives being affected for eternity because of what she's doing right now. And I just think if all of us would just step up and do that, our communities would look different. I believe this. You placed us in this community for a purpose, and I know this. There's men and women from the communities all around us. So God, I'd love to send us all out into our communities, the places that you have placed us. And I pray in the name of Jesus Christ that this week you will open up our eyes to see the needs around us. God, would you break our heart over those who are broken this morning? Would we not be able to sleep knowing that our neighbor is going through a mess? Would you just stir in us emotions that we just can't be satisfied with, knowing that the people across the street from us don't know you and they're just going through a very difficult situation? And so, God, we want to rise up, and like Lexi told us this morning, we want to be the body of Christ. We want to be your hands and your feet. And we want to bring people encouragement. We want to bring them hope. We want to bring them good news. All the things that you have given us. And so would you help us with that, Jesus? And this week, you can convict us. You can make us feel guilty. You can do anything you want to do to wake us up to this issue because eternity is depending on it. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand together.
Blessed be your name, the land that is plentiful, the streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name, the mountain of desert place, go up through the wilderness.
Blessed be the name